My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Duck Dogs. I am Josh Miller, and today I have Whitney with me, and she is going to share the eventful couple nights that we have had, and I think you're really going to enjoy this. So before I get going, thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba is the presenting sponsor of this podcast, and Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is the blend that we feed our dogs. I would highly suggest that you go check them out. It's a great food, and our dogs do fantastic on it. So also thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka it's premium. There's no other way to describe Sitka. I mean, from their everyday wear to the waders to the jackets to the layering to the, I get cold very easily, and I wear less clothing and stay warm longer, which makes me enjoy my time in the outdoors that much more. So www.sitkagear.com. So I hope everybody is having a great week. I hope the weather is warming up with wherever you are residing, because I can tell you that I am sick of winter. I am ready for this to be done. I am ready for spring to be here. I'm ready for us to be able to get into water work, and I'm ready simply to not have to bundle up and have big layers of jackets on every time I go outside. So hopefully you are enjoying green grass. We are not. We have a lot of this white stuff here, and it sounds like we're supposed to get more next week. So fun stuff there. Before we get going, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tease here, because we have something really big going on next week. And if you follow this podcast, you'll be able to find it. If you follow myself or Whitney on social, if you follow Riverstone Kennels on social, you will see it. You'll also see it here on this podcast next week. I'm super excited about this. So that's all I'm going to give you. So you have to come back. You have to stay in touch. So early next week, keep your eye out, as big things will be going on. So good stuff. So Whitney.
Yes, thank you for having me again. I love when you're on, because I just can't imagine that people love listening to me talking. I know.
So it's always fun for me to have somebody that breaks this up a little bit. And anytime I feel like Whitney has something significant to share, it's always fun to get her on here and kind of give her kind of perspective on this. So puppies. So we have a brand new litter of puppies on the ground.
Our first litter of 2022. But before we get into that, I would like to talk about fleas. No, Josh does not have them in that nice flowy as going, but we were talking last night, and I would like for you to share the flea story that you shared with me. I think it's a really good one, and I think people would actually enjoy it and understand it and kind of be able to apply it to their own lives. Yeah.
Okay. So, you threw me a curveball. It's a good one. Okay. So, I guess first let me tell you why this story even came up, and it's because I just get so frustrated with people, and I get frustrated with people because I see more and more of it all the time, especially on social media. Yeah, and phone calls I get at the kennel or emails, and it's like there's a lot of people out there that want advice, that want guidance, which is great, and I love giving it. The problem is when people aren't open to taking it, and when they don't want to take ownership for what it is that they're doing, right? So as it relates to dogs, an example. The other day, what actually brought on this conversation with Whitney last night was there was a guy, and I've had these people in the past. I might have even talking about this on this podcast, but I've had people, or I had a guy yesterday call me. He was like, "Hey man, I have these big goals and dreams with my dog to be a finished dog," and which of course we had the conversation of what is a finished dog, but he was like, "Man, I'm struggling, struggling like this last season just didn't go like how I wanted it to." And, I was disappointed that he didn't, show what I thought his potential level was. And I was like, okay, so tell me about your season. And he's like, I got busy with work, and, then I had kid stuff and all, so we got out 3 times, and, he just, the first couple of times acted like he almost didn't even know what was going on. Okay. Then, so we kind of talk about there, like, you need to give your dog opportunities. You can't expect that your dog goes on 3 hunts a year and is an all-star, right? Like, there's a reason that, on outfitter's dog that hunts, 60, 70 days a year, that dog naturally is going to be a better gun dog, more than likely, because he's getting the reps, he's getting the opportunity, right? So you can't fault the dog for not having the opportunity. Okay. So that was one. So we kind of went through that. And then we got into the development part. Okay. So what are you wanting him to do this next year? Like, as you look for your goals, what do you look at next year? And his response was, I want to run blind retrieves. Okay. So what you're going to need to do is get some room, and it's like every single thing that I tried to give him advice on was like, I can't. Okay, well, why can't you? I live in town and have a little lot, so I need something different. And I'm like, finally got to the point I had to be honest with him, like, man, like, there's no easy button. There's no, like, I can't give you like this magic formula that this just happens. Like, if you don't have the room, go find the room. Like, there has to be parks or soccer fields, or there has to be stuff around. You're just not wanting to put in the effort is what this is, right? Not having the time. Well, I have a full-time job and I have this. We all do. Most of us, if you're retired, I'm very jealous, but we all do. Like, I don't understand this negativity of, I want this, but I'm not willing to figure out how to make that work, right? So the flea story. So as I'm venting, to Whitney's very good at being my soundboard at the end of a day if I get frustrated with stuff, and so I'm venting to Whitney, and I was told this story a long time ago, and it once in a while it kind of floats into my mind, and I don't think until last night, I don't think I'd ever told you this.
No, I
story.
never heard this story.
Right. So now, I've come to find out that the facts behind this story are not maybe necessarily true, but the moral is definitely there. So the story goes that a flea can jump 32 inches in the air. Okay, a tiny little flea, is capable of jumping 32 inches in the air. Incredible. But if you take that flea and you capture it and you put it in a 6-inch jar, what's going to happen is that flea is going to go jump and hit his head on the top, right? He's going to jump again. And after a time, he's going to figure out, well, I can't jump 36 inches anymore. I need to jump 5 so that I don't knock my head, right? So what happens? The flea naturally only now jumps 5 inches. So part of this is you can kind of see where I'm going, right? So like, if you limit yourself, naturally there's only so far you can go. Now, that same flea has little flealets. I don't know what they'd be. Baby fleas. those baby fleas are going to grow up thinking what they're capable of is jumping 5 inches, even though they're capable of jumping 32. They will never believe they can because their environment and who they're learning from says they can't. That is impactful. From dog training to life to, you can apply that to so many places. I have been making a conscious effort to separate the people that are negative in my life away from me, because negativity is infectious. If you're around negative people, they will naturally pull you down. You can't help it, right? Sports teams, if you have a negative approach or a negative vibing team, that team is likely not going to be successful, right? All the time, we're coming into March, right? So all the time in March Madness, you see teams that are less talented get on a high. They're all positive. Momentum is what we call it, right? That's positive energy carrying them forward. That's how the Murray State beats Duke. The positive energy, the positive thought. I just think it's such an impactful story for what we just talked about, because that dog, for this individual, quite frankly, let's just be blunt, that dog will never reach that dog's potential. There's no way. Because who he's looking for guidance is not giving him the opportunity to be successful. He's limiting the opportunities to go on these hunts, which is, I think, a down the road problem. But he's limiting himself by making the excuses before he can even get there. I don't have the space. I don't have the tools. I don't have the time. You can make any excuse you want. At the end of the day, it's an excuse. If it was important to you, you would make time and you'd make it happen. For me, put my money where my mouth is. I just started a workout program called 75 Hard, which is 75 straight days. 75 straight days of 2 45-minute workouts a day, a gallon of water a day. I have to take a photo of myself to show myself, the progressions as I, go through this. I have to read 10 pages minimum of a self-bettering book, and I have to follow a diet so that I'm not having cheat meals and not, eating like I shouldn't. 75 days. I've thought about doing this program for a very long time, but I've always found a reason why I can't. Well, it's travel season. Well, it's hunting season. Well, it's training season. Well, it's like, at some point, you just got to say those are excuses. Make it happen. Like I get to speak at Pheasant Fest next weekend. It is not going to be fun to have to fit in 2 workouts on top of being at the show and speaking all day, on top of going out to dinner with these brands and these people and the networking, not being able to drink, mind you, or have drinks. Not that I'm a big drinker, I guess, but not being able to have any drinks, and then coming back and having to do another big workout. But if I use that as an excuse, then I would push it off again, and I push it off again. I'm going to make it happen. I will make sure that I get all that done, even around everything that I have to do. And what's funny is that yesterday was the first day that I had in this program that I really struggled finding the time. It was a super busy day. I had a lot going on. It was hard for me to find the time. But I found it. And for me, I was more proud of yesterday than any of my previous days because I made it happen. And it's amazing how when you have priorities, you make those happen. And you're more proud of it because of it. So the flea story. So I love. So where going back to the details of my next career, I don't actually believe that a flea can jump 36 inches. I don't believe that is actually true, or 32 inches or whatever it was. But that was the story, was 32 inches, and it's impactful.
It totally is.
Yeah, you can apply it.
It makes you think. It makes you really think about life.
Well, it makes you think about life, your mentality
Mm-hmm.
and the people around you. Like I love, like I think you could have stopped that story with just the flea now because of the environment has, will never reach its potential.
Mm-hmm.
But then to evolve that into like how many kids out there, like think
Mm-hmm.
about how many kids have negative minded parents that everything's always bad and nothing is ever good enough and you won't be able to do this. Like those kids, that's how they grow up. They think that's how life is.
Mm-hmm.
That's a crazy thing. So I just love that story.
It's a good one. I
Yeah.
like it.
Well,
Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for making me talk about it. Oh. All right, Whit.
Okay.
Let's get a little happier here.
Let's talk about my little puppies.
Let's talk about your puppies.
All right, we are getting into full swing puppy season. I'm so excited. I'm energized. I'm ready to go. Had our first litter born, our Rainy and Bud litter. The puppies are so cute as always. But this was it's a really good one to explain to people kind of how things happen unexpectedly, expectedly. How do you and I work together sometimes during a whelping, which is when the puppies are being delivered, if you don't know what whelping means. And then how we go about caring for puppies after they're born.
For sure.
So, okay.
Before we do this, let me thank our other two sponsors because when you get going, we're going to get going. Okay. So thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck has the 5-star crash test rated kennels, both in the intermediate and the large versions. Go check them out. That's how all of our dogs ride, and we just absolutely love them. www.luckyduck.com. And also thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs. And just with the way that supplies are right now, I would suggest getting with Gun Dog Supply early if there's stuff that you need going into this training season, because we've all, over the last couple of years, have understood how products are more and more difficult to get, it seems like, in supply. So go check them out, www.gundogsupply.com.
Perfect.
It's all you.
Good job. Okay. So we are going to go way back to the breeding before we jump right into the puppies. So a lot of people, I feel like, don't know this about a heat cycle. And so I actually want to go way, way back to when a female first comes into heat and kind of explain that to people and how a heat cycle really works. So day 1 of a heat cycle is the first day that you notice spotting. Heat cycles typically...
Which is bleeding.
I
mean, I tend to be more blunt on this show, so let's just be blunt about it.
When you notice blood.
Yeah.
Okay. So females are typically in heat for 28 days. It does not matter if they bleed for 1 day or 28 days. It does not matter. The most fertile days typically in a heat cycle are from days about 9 to 14. And so a lot of people think that a heat cycle ends when the bleeding ends, and it's just not true. So if you want a female and she comes in heat, watch her for at least a full 28 days.
That's a great point. And that's something that a lot of people do have the misconception of, is when they stop bleeding, then it's over and it's done. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes they could be the most fertile in that time. So don't let your Labrador be around the neighbor's, pit bull or Chihuahua or Bulldog or whatever. Like, just don't
keep
let
her
that
inside.
happen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what we do is, we take our females to the vet to get a blood draw for a progesterone, and what that is going to tell us are her most fertile days to breed her. Now, to give you an idea, I don't even take the females to the vet until day 7 because I know that I still have days in there. I'm giving myself a window here in case they were to have an early rise in their progesterone or a late rise, but this gives me somewhat of an idea of what my next week is going to play out with this female, and it also allows Josh and I to have time to reassess the breeding pair and make our final decision of who we are going to breed this female with. Because at the beginning of the year, Josh and I go through all of our breeding pairs and we finalize most of them. But as we go through our reservation list and see what people's needs are and their wants in their puppy regarding temperament, sometimes we change who we're going to breed. And so, like Sunny and Timber, for instance, okay, they're sisters from Sage and Brock. They have similar personalities, but they also have different personalities. And so we were trying to decide who we're going to breed Clyde to and who we're going to breed Strike to, which are two very opposite males.
This takes up an awkward amount of Whitney in my life, is talking about these pairings, because it is such an important piece of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll save that. We can do that on another podcast, because that could be a whole nother podcast of how we go through breeding pairs. But anyways, okay, back to the heat cycle. So when we do those progesterone numbers, one, they're telling us what days we should breed the female to. Now, we breed 3 consecutive days in a row. And then the progesterone also tells us our 3 due dates that we have for a female. So in that preparation of having this litter, females are typically pregnant for 58 to 63 days. When you think about that short of time and having this female growing a litter of puppies in her, it's actually incredible.
Incredible. No doubt.
I go and get these puppy count x-rays about 1 week before the female is due. That way I know how many puppies to expect. And this is actually a great example of this whelping, because if we didn't know how many puppies we were going to expect, you could have thought she was just going to have a singleton. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so...
Which I just want to touch on that for a second, because this is really important. And a lot of times there's the question might come up of, why? Like, why do you go in to get progesterone? You don't need it. Why do you take an x-ray? You don't need it. You may not need it, but when we're trying to do things as proficiently as possible and professionally as possible, it's really important. It's really important to make sure that you hit that breeding cycle just right. It's extremely important that you know how many puppies are in there, because like you said, Whitney, like there could be a huge gap in between puppies 4 and 5, and you might be going there, oh, well, she's done, had her 4 puppies, go to bed, and now you have a mess on your hand. You have, puppies that are, not being born, properly, or, issues that come up, or, who knows. But it's, to me, the professionalism there is the big reason of pushing. And then, for us is, we want the happiest, healthiest puppies we can. We want mama to be happy and healthy, and, there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. I do have people ask me that a lot. Oh, why do you do all this? And actually, my first response is, well, don't you show up to your job as well? I mean, this is my job as well, and I need to be there for every single step throughout my job for every single mama. And so, that's a good point. So,
and, for me, to be fair, I've asked this question a number of times too, because I'm looking at the vet bills going, what in the world? How do we, I swear, like, we should have her name out in front of our vet's office, because I'm pretty sure we're putting all of their kids through college, with our bills. But to your point, it's a big deal. It's to be professional, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's really important. And, these progesterones, I don't do them just one time, because on day 7, they're typically too early to even know what those breeding days are. So then I go back again on day 9, because I want to be so detailed in every single breeding. Okay. So now we have done our puppy count x-ray. What is so amazing on these puppy count x-rays is that these mamas, of course, they take the full gestation to produce these puppies, to grow these puppies. And sometimes, even though I take these mamas in a week before they're due, sometimes these puppies don't even have toes yet. They literally take that full gestation time to grow these healthy puppies.
That's crazy.
It's incredible. So I'm so thankful when the first puppy's born and they have their toes. Okay, so now we're going to go into, she is a couple days out from her whelping day, which is delivery days. So I start taking a baseline temp, internal temp of her. And what this is going to do is the way a mama's body gets ready is their temp drops almost a full degree. They're usually in the low 98s, high 97s. Their body's going to be working really hard, so their internal body temp actually drops. Now, when it drops, I know that they are going to start going into labor within 24 hours. Typically. Okay. All of this is typically because things can be different. It is not a cookie cutter thing. So here we are. And I knew Rainey's 3 due dates. Okay. It was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on Sunday, Saturday night, I heard her nesting a lot. And what nesting is it's their natural instinct, basically making a nest for them to deliver their puppies in. And so she's nesting. I can hear her really ruffling up her bed downstairs in the puppy nursery. And I'm like, all right, she's really getting ready. Her body's telling her she's going to start having puppies, but her temp hasn't dropped yet. And it was only Saturday night. And I'm like, all right, this is great. She slowly stops eating, which is very common. And so then, okay, here I am. Sunday, I'm in the puppy nursery just hanging out with her. I also have Daisy down there. I have Raven down there. And I'm just watching Rainy. And I'm like, man, she is either stressed out about this or we might be having these puppies today, And so another sign is that they get the shakes. And I'm like, oh boy, here they come. She's getting the shakes. She's doing this heavy panting. I have our kids, Ava, Colton with me. Josh is not home. And I text him. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think we're going to have puppies. So please get home ASAP before I have to put our kids in the puppy pen next to her Whelping.
Yeah. You actually called me. And of course I'm completely doing something different. I'm like, oh gosh, I have to drop everything I'm doing, get home to get the kids. Mm-hmm. And then in pure dad form is dinner time. So
what are you going to make?
We went into town to go get dinner. Yep. And so Whitney started her job, and we and so these kind of things, when we say that this is a lifestyle, it's not some kind of phony tagline or like some BS. Like this is our life. I mean, it literally on a Sunday night, all of our plans change at the drop of a hat, and you have to scramble, and which is all great things, but it is definitely something that we can't just plan things out. Right. And from a planning standpoint, I'm not going to take us in the weeds too far, but there's a lot of people that struggle with that. We have had friends and family members get legitimately upset at us because we can't plan vacation for March of next year, or we can't like I have an aunt and uncle that wanting us to come up to their cabin in one weekend, and it's like, you pick the weekend anytime in July, and it's like, well, like we can't.
We'll tell you 60 days in advance,
right? That's and even then it's like you have to be safe on each side. So it's a lifestyle for sure.
It's totally a lifestyle, and like I said, now typically their temp does drop, and we do know, we have a great heads up of when they're going to start going into labor. But Rainey was just one that was going to be outside of the lines. And so I'm like, all right, this is great. It's like, so we had the puppy count x-ray. We counted 6. The way we do that is we count skulls and spines that connect. And it's actually, if you follow us on Instagram at Riverstone, I love to post those because it's incredible to see so all these little spines and skulls jumbled up. So we knew we were going to have 6 puppies, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. So it is 4 p.m. on a Sunday. And I mean, I'm going to be done in typically 6 hours because the way that I count my whelping is that I expect it to be about an hour per puppy. Now that doesn't mean that a puppy's going to be delivered every hour. We could have 3 puppies delivered in 5 minutes. But from start to finish, when you total it all up, it usually accrues to an hour per puppy. So this is great. Now she's contracting. You can physically see these contractions happen. Their body just, I don't even know how to explain it.
Like kind of the tense up.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, they tense up in their hind. And so I'm like, all right, this is amazing. She's contracting. Here comes the first little sweet bundle of joy, little yellow female, cute as can be, same color as Rainy. I was praying for yellow females. Like, this is an amazing start to our 2022 puppy season.
And the only reason you're praying for yellow females is because of how long your yellow female list is, correct?
Yes, totally. And for some reason, I don't ever produce as many yellow females. I don't know why. It just is what it is. So I was so thrilled to see this sweet little thing.
Mother Nature. Mother Nature reminding you that you're not in charge.
100%. Okay, so then, Josh and the kids are enjoying their dinner out, and here I am watching Rainey. And so she is a great first-time mom. She takes to her puppy instantly. She's laying there licking her. She's stimulating her because these puppies need to be stimulated to go to the bathroom. So she licks them, like all is going well. The puppy starts nursing right away. Like I couldn't ask for any more than what is happening right now. And I'm like, this is amazing. So we're going to have a great whelping and life is good. So the first hour goes by after the puppy's been born, and I have a chart that I mark what time the puppy's been born, what the sex and color is, if she retained the placenta, ate the placenta, or if I threw it away because I need to keep track of that. Retained placentas can make a mama really sick. If they eat too many, it can make them sick. And so I need to keep track of all of that, and then any special notes that I have.
Being a detail person is, I keep my training notebook and I keep all these notes, and literally travel with a notebook in my center console so I can write, things down as I'm traveling. I am thoroughly impressed with how detailed you are with everything you note, and like down to the minute of each event. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
I don't know if I've ever told you that before.
You haven't. Wow. That's so nice of you. Okay, so an hour goes by. I am not worried because this is our first time whelping. They can take a long time, and, we're just going to go through the motions. There's no reason to get nervous. Then the second hour goes by, and I do start to see her doing contractions here and there, and I'm like, okay, this is totally fine. Her body is still engaged. She's still engaging with her puppy. But now I'm going to start to get a little involved because I need to see what is going on internally. And so I put my rubber glove on, and now I'm going to see if I can feel this puppy. So I insert my fingers, and I can feel the tip of the puppy's head. And I'm like, okay, this is great. I can feel the puppy. She's contracting. Things are moving along. And so a lot of times if a puppy is just kind of sitting there where I can feel the head, I will actually take the mama outside to walk her to just try and get her body moving. A lot of times if they go outside, those contractions actually make them feel like they have to go to the bathroom. And I can't even tell you how many times I've delivered a puppy outside. And so I'm like, all right, Rainey, let's go outside. I'll let you walk around. Maybe I'll push your puppy out that way. She didn't. So we went back inside to her other little puppy. And to be honest, now I am getting concerned because I'm like, okay, I can feel the puppy. And if you know the way a puppy should be born, typically its front legs are forward and then with the head. That's how they're usually born. And so I was starting to get concerned because I was not able to feel those front legs, but I could feel the head. And I've done this enough where I know that this could be a concern in the fact that if the legs are back and now it's just coming head first, it can get hung up at those shoulders in the birth canal, and it can cause a puppy to get stuck. And then you have to do a C-section typically. So what I did is...
Sorry, time out.
No, you're good.
C-section, what are reasons that you'd want to avoid a C-section?
Well, I mean, number one, you don't really want to put a dog under while they're in the middle of birth.
Which you'd have to do with the mom.
You would have to put her under. Now, and then you just have to go through the whole healing process with her having a C-section. Luckily, she had one puppy, so you don't really have to worry about that Mother Nature kicking in after a C-section, but she's a new mom. And there's a lot going on in their mind. If they have one puppy now, if she were to have a C-section, now I'm going to have to tube feed that puppy because those puppies need to eat about every hour. Now she wouldn't be able to eat for probably the next 3 hours while she's doing the C-section and then coming out of anesthesia.
I was going to ask about the Mother Nature part of it because I know that's a real thing, right? I mean, the natural side of it. I mean, there's a lot of emotion to that, right? Yeah. And a lot of natural simulation.
Right. Exactly. So, so C-sections, I try to avoid at all costs.
Well, and from another layer, from yeah, I think I get a little less, not that I love the puppies,
Yeah.
but you're very emotionally connected where
Mm-hmm.
I can look at from the business standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a great business thing either, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the incredible cost, that goes into it, so
Yeah.
if we were to, a lot of times the puppy that's stuck,
Yeah.
it can get lost as far as it doesn't make it
Right.
because it's stuck in there for too long, and there's a lot of complications that come with that. We have one puppy out the window anyway because the compensation to the female's owner, right?
Right.
And then you start adding the C-section. Now, like
Mm-hmm.
we're probably going to lose, if not, or try to come out even on a litter, which it's from a business standpoint is difficult.
It is difficult.
And and that's not the reason that we wouldn't want to do it. We wouldn't
No.
ever hold a female back from that. But just again running things as a
Mm-hmm.
business here, there's a lot of layers to it.
Well, and if you do one C-section, so we breed our females 2 times with sometimes a third. It really all depends on a lot of things. But if you do a C-section for one, you have to do a C-section for all the other breedings because they now have that scar tissue,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't deliver naturally
Mm-hmm.
after you've had one C-section.
Right.
Okay,
So a lot of reasons to try to avoid
a lot of reasons.
C-section.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now I know this puppy, its front legs are not where I want them to be. And I know this puppy is stuck. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, come on.
And how I'm sorry, how long?
Okay, so so
At
now
this
we're
point?
at hour 2, okay?
Okay.
We're at hour 2. And now I'm like, okay, so I have a full bottle of lubricant in my puppy nursery for these reasons, because sometimes if you can just lubricate this female while they're contracting, it can really help them just slide that puppy right out. Didn't work. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, so I do have oxytocin, which oxytocin can help the mom continue to contract. Now, there are definitely pros and cons to the oxytocin because she still has these 4 other puppies behind her, behind this one that's stuck. And oxytocin is not the best thing to do because those puppies are now stuck and now they're going to get jumbled up. And it's not something that I really like to do. Typically, I only give a female oxytocin is if I know she's retained placentas because I want her to expel those placentas. So I give her a really little dose of oxytocin just to keep her engaged so I can keep lubing her up and keep trying to get her to push this puppy out. And it's not working. And I am like getting so sad because I'm like, I know the next steps and I just don't want to take Rainey and her puppy and have to go through this. And so,
not to mention the closest place for us to get to a C-section is
like 45 minutes away, an emergency vet, and it's Sunday. And it's just like, I love everything to go naturally.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know? And so I'm like, all right, we are going to have to call on the big guns here. And that is Josh. So you guys just saw the look on his face. He's like, who is this? So I said, okay, I can feel the head.
Well, so I just got back with the kids from dinner.
Yeah, so Josh has been gone this whole time.
Yeah, and I come back and I walk in the room and I can tell by Whitney's face that something's wrong.
Okay, so I can feel the head, but my hands are not big enough for me to try and sweep up the puppy's front paws. So that's the next thing. Okay, if you can try and feel the paws in any way, can you sweep them up in front of the head? Because that's going to be able to make her push this puppy out. Are you still all following? So I'm like, all right, Josh, like I can feel the head. And the thing is what was really stressing me out is that I knew this puppy's sac had broke.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when that puppy sac breaks is that they can so easily ingest all these fluids and then they drown themselves, right? And so I'm like, I could feel the puppy's mouth moving in the beginning and I couldn't anymore. And so I'm like, I'm going to just expect this puppy to be stillborn. Like my heart's breaking, but like now we're kind of in like, we need to get this puppy out because now I'm also fearing for the puppies that are still needing to be born after this puppy. So I told Josh, I said, all right, I can feel the head, but my fingers are not long enough to be able to try and pull this puppy out. Like I can't grab it by the head and pull it out, as she's contracting. So I like just was by Rainy. I was petting her, and I'm like trying to console her and just tell her everything's going to be fine. While Josh was actually able to go in, and he's like, all right, I can feel the puppy's head. And when she contracts, I can get my fingers around the head.
Kind
and
of.
won't you take it from here?
Yeah.
Because you can explain this better than me because I was consoling her and you were doing all the work.
Yeah. So when I went up to feel and kind of assess the situation for myself, I could feel the puppy's head. I could feel, kind of around the head, but I couldn't get the legs, and I couldn't get. And you have to imagine, like, you're using every centimeter of your index and middle finger to do this. So it's not like you have a lot of opportunity. And so I'm trying to feel the best I can. I can feel the head. And so when she would contract, that puppy would barely come forward, and then when she'd stop contracting, it would suck back. And so what I was trying to do, again, we think at this point that this puppy is likely stillborn or likely deceased, and we need to get this puppy out to clear the room for the others. So what my idea was going to be was I was going to try to, on one of the contractions, to try to grab basically around the skull on one of the contractions and hold the puppy there, and then on maybe the next contraction try to just start pulling to extract extract the body. And so as I was sitting there and trying to figure out how I was going to do this, because I'm thinking, am I going to go up on the top of the skull? Am I going to go below on the jawline and kind of feel that out? The puppy nibbles my finger, and I was like, Whitney, are you sure that this puppy is gone? She's like, no, I'm for sure I'm not. And I'm like, well, I'm 99% sure that this puppy just nibbled my finger. And like Whitney's face like lit up and immediately went into very calm and controlled panic mode of like, you need to figure out how to get this done. And so, I felt the urgency radiating off of Whitney. And so what we did is we put some extra lube in, and basically what I was trying to do is Whitney will kind of help and coach me on a couple things, but when I would move my hand, it would stimulate contractions.
Right.
And so what was happening was I was trying to position her body and with my left hand, with my right hand in place, and I would stimulate to cause a contraction. And when that happened, I would kind of somewhat forcefully with my left hand, move Rainey's body to where I was hoping to kind of get some leverage to where I could get somewhere. And after it probably took 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And I felt like I was almost there. And I just couldn't get it. And it was like, there was one point that was like, I felt like I had it. And the puppy, retracted back in. And I remember that was a pretty devastating moment because, I looked at you and you looked at me. It was like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're like, you know what? Let's just try this one more time. And, I put a little extra force into it and was able to grab the puppy. And I remember going, wait, I got the head. You're like, okay, yeah. So all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to hold this puppy in place, and again, with my fingertips around the top of his skull.
And we can't see this puppy, remember?
Right.
We're only going off of feel.
Right.
And so we can't see anything that's going on.
Right.
With what you're doing.
Not the easiest thing in the world. And so now I'm trying to be forceful enough that I can keep the puppy where it has to be, but also knowing that I'm hopefully dealing with a puppy that is like maybe fading but borderline alive.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm kind of panicked, right? Because I'm like, I'm trying to walk a tightrope. Well, I was able to keep that puppy there. We simulated one more contraction, and then I was able to get that big kind of push, and I was able to get the puppy's nose out. So the nose is poking out. And I just held him there. It was a him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I held him there the best I could, and I waited for one more contraction. I pulled him out the rest of the way, and Whitney literally like pushed me out of the way and jumped in and went into action. And I just remember going, he's alive. And it was, for me, I don't know how long that took. I have no idea.
I don't know. It seemed like forever, but I'm sure it was not that long.
Yeah, it seemed like 2 hours, but it was probably 10 minutes, But I mean, I was literally out of breath. Like I was like, I mean, it was
So
just
much
physically
adrenaline.
draining, and it was really, really incredible. But now aftermath, right? So we have this puppy out, absolute miracle.
Miracle.
And
I start suctioning its mouth because in case it had any fluids in there, I wanted to get it out right away, make sure he's okay. Because a side of me was like, okay, well, like how much force did we just put on this puppy?
Mhm.
And is this puppy able to move its neck? Is it able to move its legs? Like then you go into this whole like, okay, the puppy's out and alive, but how well is it?
Right.
Like, did we cause any damage to the neck or the back?
Right. And I think that's why I was on pins and needle for a little bit
Yeah.
too, because I mean, I could feel with my hand how much force was being pushed around, that puppy, which of course they all go through contractions, right? But it's an incredible thing. And this is why it is so important from a breeder standpoint to have the experience of doing this, and learning from someone, just like you did, learn from someone that truly understands and knows what they're doing, because if you're an overnight breeder and you just start having puppies, or, well, we have, 1 litter a year, kind of thing, these situations, just quite frankly, they don't turn out positively like this.
Yeah.
They just don't.
It goes back to, again, like, Whit, why do you have to be there during the whelping? Like, this is why.
100%.
Is because the care for the mamas and the puppies is so important.
100%. And I remember you spent a lot of time over actually the next few days looking over every inch of this puppy over and over and over and over again to make sure that there weren't any issues. And he's 100% healthy, right?
He's great.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's thriving.
Yeah.
So kind of, okay, so then the rest of the whelping goes great. Okay, we just had the one puppy. Josh was a miracle worker. He got the puppy out. Everything's great. Rainey's an amazing mom. Has great milk production. Puppies are thriving. Like everything is so good. And so, which brings me into my next thing of what I do with the puppies. So once everyone is born, everyone is doing well, I collar all the puppies. So each puppy has their own collar color. Okay, so we have 6 different puppies, 6 different collar colors. And what that does is it lets me look at this litter as 6 little individuals rather than a full litter with just these cute little puppies. And what it also allows me to do is see something like we call him Little Gray Collar because that's his collar color. But now I know that if anything were to come up that was odd, out of place, we know that that is the one that we had to pull out of her. And now if he had an issue with like his neck or his back or something, now we have that something to link that to. I also weigh these puppies for the first 5 days. I weigh them morning and night because I want to make sure that they are getting all the milk that they need and that they are properly growing, because it looks like the puppies are nursing 24/7. And it's really easy to miss if there is just one puppy not nursing, or if one has a really tiny cleft palate. They try to nurse and they can't, so you can pick that up. But it's just a way one more way for me to be able to keep track of all these puppies and making sure that they're all healthy and growing.
It's amazing stuff. And what I love about it is that we incorporate it's our family time. So we have a 3-year-old daughter that loves the puppies at this age. She gets in there, oh, you're so cute, and she's but she helps hand the puppy to Whitney. Whitney weighs them. Colt basically just observes at this point because he's a almost a 1.5-year-old boy, and we're not going to trust him holding these little fragile little puppies. And it's a fun thing for me. A couple of things. One, I think the idea of instilling responsibility early on in a young kid's life is big for me. But then 2, I think there's a reason that you see so many kids that are involved in animals just, quite frankly, not be idiots, because they understand the value of life
Totally
from a very young age. They understand that if I don't feed this animal today, or if I don't water this animal today, they don't get to eat. They don't get to drink. Like, those are major, major responsibilities that if you can just have that be a part of a kid's life, I just feel like there's a different level of respect of their surroundings. And so that's why I'm so proud of that. It's a lifestyle for us because this is a 24/7 job.
24/7 job that we all love. We love our little puppies. We love to see them come back for training too. That's what's so fun.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. Okay, so any other notes on this litter? Anything you'd like to kind of go over and talk about?
No, the only other thing that I would urge everyone to go and do is follow us on Instagram and Facebook. So now you can literally follow this litter with me for the next 7 weeks.
And it is really cool. Whitney does a great job giving updates on like what she's doing, why she's doing it. And I think there's a ton of information, that she gives out there on there. So I think you'd really appreciate that. We remember next week, big news.
Big news.
Stay in touch because I'm excited. So thank you guys for spending another week with us. Hopefully you enjoyed this story, enjoyed having Whitney on. Once again, thank you for being here. And we will talk to you all early next week. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes. And a special thank you to DUK because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.